Everyone, and welcome back to Googie's Kitchen, and if you are new here then hello and welcome. My name's Alexis and I post 2 videos a week on a Tuesday and a Thursday at 7 AM. So if you love a recipe video like this one and you want to see more, then please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And now I'm going to share with you my 3 favourite vegan chilies. As I just mentioned, today I want to share with you my 3 favourite vegan chilies. So personally for me, I love eating chilli, especially on a cold winter's day. And now that January is here, I have started to look for more warming foods. Chilies are very easy to prepare and cook, and they are also fairly inexpensive as well. So today I thought I'd share my 3 favourites with you. So as you can see, I have peeled and chopped all of my vegetables, so I'm just going to put everything straight into the slow cooker now. So in this bowl here, I have 1 onion that I have peeled and sliced and diced, so I'm just going to put that in. I did my pieces quite small, but you don't have to, you can do them any size you like. And then I've also got 1 carrot and 1 courgette that I've peeled and sliced as well. If you have a fussy eater, my top tip is to grate them in, because then they don't notice they're in there. Normally I would do that, but I was chopping these last night, so I was a bit tired and just thought I'm going to slice them. And then in this bowl here, I have 1 small butternut squash that I have peeled, so I've removed the skin from, and some of the seeds as well, and then I just chopped it into like cubes, so 2 centimetre piece cubes. I've just chopped that in 2, so I'm going to put that in as well. And then I'm going to add in my lentils. So I've got about 160 grams of red lentils here. You can add a few more, or you could add a few less if you wanted to. Entirely your choice. And I'm just going to mix all of those ingredients together. And then I'm going to put 1 teaspoon of ground coriander. So I'm just going to sprinkle this over the top, like so. And then I've got 1 teaspoon of ground cumin as well. So I'm just going to put that in. And then I've got 1 teaspoon of ground ginger I'm going to put in as well. And these spices just give the chilli a really good flavour, I find. I quite like mixing and matching spices for chilli, I have to say. And I thought these worked really well with this chilli as well. And then I've got 1 teaspoon of ground sweet cinnamon here as well. And then I've got 1 teaspoon of mild chilli powder, but if you prefer your chilli spicier, then please feel free to put hot chilli powder into it. So I'm going to put 1 teaspoon of mild chilli powder in. I'm obviously serving this to a young man who's not so keen on spice, but he doesn't mind a little bit. And then I've got 1 teaspoon of oregano as well, or oregano as they say in America. And then again, I'm going to mix those round, and I'm also going to add in 1 tablespoon of chickpea flour, or gram flour I think it's called in other places in the world. You can add plain flour. I have a gluten intolerance, which is why I'm using chickpea flour, but you could use rice flour as well if you have a gluten intolerance like me, or you can use plain flour or gluten-free flour as well, if you obviously the plain flour if you don't have a gluten intolerance. And then all I'm going to do now is just add in about 500 ml of vegetable stock to this as well. And I've forgotten to open my tinned tomatoes and my beans, so I'm going to go away for a second and open these, and then I'll be back. So finally I'm going to add in my butter beans. Now you don't have to use butter beans if you don't want to. You could use red kidney beans, or you could use any type of bean you like. We just prefer butter beans in this house. I think my son prefers bigger beans and my husband prefers smaller beans, so I'm going to do bigger beans for this one today. And then in here I have, so this is like 1 tin of chopped tomatoes, so it's about 400 grams of chopped tomatoes. And I've just put these in and I'm just mixing them round in my crock pot. Just getting all of the chopped tomatoes out as I like to. Just get rid of that. And then in this bowl here I have 1 teaspoon of tomato puree as well. And the tomato puree is just add a bit of extra flavour and a bit of thickness to the sauce as well. So again, I'm just going to stir that in until everything is well mixed together. And that's done. So now all I have to do is put the lid on and turn it on to high, and I'm going to cook this on high for 4 hours, or if you wanted it slower then you could cook it on low for 7. Right, so the chilli has finished cooking. It's been on for a good 4 hours and it smells delicious, I have to say. So all I'm going to do now is just add some spinach. I always like to add this at the end and let it wilt down. Spinach doesn't need a long time to cook. It's a perfect vegetable if you want something quick and easy. So yeah, I'm just going to let this wilt down into my chilli. And then I'm going to serve myself some rice into this bowl here, like so. And then I'm going to serve myself some chilli, and that is our dinner done. And it smells delicious. I'm really looking forward to this tonight. Firstly, I'm going to preheat my oven to 160 degrees. To start the process, I've put a large saucepan and I'm going to put it onto a high heat on my hob. And I'm going to add a bit of oil to the base of that pan. And then I'm just going to leave the pan to heat up. The oil in the bottom of the pan has started to sizzle slightly and it is getting warmer, so I'm going to add the onions. So I have peeled and chopped sliced and diced, one onion. So I'm going to put that into the base of my pan and I'm going to fry this until this starts to soften. The onions have started to soften, so I'm going to add in 1 clove of garlic that I have peeled and sliced as well, and I'm going to fry this for a further few minutes. So I forgot to say, but actually I'm making this dish for Ted, Howard and myself, so I've halved all of the ingredients. So I used probably about half an onion for this. And as I said, I've only used 1 clove of garlic as well. So if you're making it for 4, as the recipe suggests, then I would use 2 cloves of garlic. As you can see, my pan is getting a little bit hot at the bottom, so I'm just going to add a little bit of water to the base of the pan to stop everything from sticking. And I'm frying the garlic until it starts to go golden brown, which I think it has now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in my red pepper. I have actually used a whole red pepper because I do like red pepper, but if you're making it for half the amount, then you don't have to use a whole one. So I have topped the top off of the red pepper. I've removed the stalk and the core, and I have just sliced and diced it. So I'm going to pop that into my pan as well, and I'm going to fry the pepper for a few minutes. This won't soften as well as the onion does, just because it's a denser vegetable, but it's always good to heat it through for a few minutes before you add in the tomatoes and the stock. I do have some carrots and courgettes to add in as well, so I will add those in as well. But I'm just going to continue to fry this pepper until it sort of starts to soften, but it'll probably still be quite hard. The pepper has started to soften a little, so now what I'm going to do is I have peeled and grated half a courgette, because the courgette was quite large, and I've peeled and grated 1 small carrot. Now in the original recipe it said to peel and grate 1 large courgette and 1 large carrot, but as I'm only serving this for half the amount and a little one, then I've only used half of it. So So I'm just going to continue to fry this for a further few minutes now until the courgette and the carrot starts to soften as well. All of the vegetables have started to soften nicely now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in my spices. So I have about a teaspoon of mild chili powder. You can use medium or you can use hot as well. I'm actually feeding this to a child, so I only like to use medium. He likes spice, but he doesn't like it too spicy, I have to say. We're getting him used to that. And then I'm also going to add in a teaspoon of ground sweet cinnamon as well. And I'm also going to add in some dried mixed herbs as well. The cinnamon just adds a little extra sweetness without it being too sugary. So I'm just going to stir these round now. Oh, I can really smell those spices. It smells lovely. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour over a tin of tomatoes to that as well. So I'm just going to pour over the tomatoes like so. And I'm also going to add about, well, in the original recipe I said 250 mils, so I'm going to say about 175 mils of vegetable stock I'm going to add to that as well. You can use chicken stock if you're not a vegan, or you could use bone broth as well. I am actually using vegetable stock today. And then to that I'm going to add a tablespoon of tomato puree as well. And this just adds a bit of thickness to it. It just thickens the sauce quite nicely. And then I'm also going to add a tablespoon of tamari as well, which is a fermented soya sauce. So if you haven't got tamari or you can't get it, then you can always use this instead. So those are those ingredients in. And I must remember my salt and pepper. So before I go and get the salt and pepper, I'm just going to give this a little stir like so. And I'm going to add in my beans now. So in here I have about 100 grams. In the original recipe it was 200 grams. I have 100 grams of black beans, and I did have to add some cannellini beans to this just to even it out, because I didn't have enough black beans in my cupboard. So you can always use other beans. You don't have to use black beans. Black beans are quite tasty. They are one of my favourite beans, I have to say. But if you haven't got enough, or you can't get them, then you can always use another bean, like cannellini bean. Haricot beans are really nice as well. So yes, I'm just going to go and get my salt and pepper. So I'm going to add a pinch or two of salt to the chilli, and I'm also going to add in a little bit of pepper as well. Not too much, because we already have spice in it, but we do like a little bit of pepper. So obviously salt and pepper to your taste. And I'm going to put the lid back on this, and I'm now going to put this into the oven for about an hour. The chilli has been cooking for an hour, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just add in the kale, and I'm going to let this wilt down in the pan. So I'll just use a spoon to stir that around like so. And then I'm going to serve this with some rice, and it smells really good as well. So I'm really looking forward to my dinner now. I'm going to cook off my dried cannellini beans. Firstly, I'm going to put some salt into the water. Actually, I'm going to turn the hob on first, that does help. So I'm going to put this onto a high heat, and I'm going to add a little bit of salt to the base of the pan, and I'm also going to add some baking powder as well, and the baking powder will help to soften the dried beans and make them cook a bit quicker as well. So I'm just going to add that in. And as I said, I've got dried beans here, so I soaked the beans overnight in the fridge. I poured a lot of water into a bowl, and I just left them to soak. And then just now I've tipped them into this colander, and I just washed them through under the tap. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them into the water And I'm going to leave this to come to the boil, and then I shall leave it to simmer and then wait until all the beans have cooked before I drain it off again. The beans are coming to the boil, so I'm just going to lift the lid a little, and I'm going to turn the heat down to about 6, and I'm also going to put a wooden spoon over the top of that. My son taught me this hack, that if you put a wooden spoon over the top, then the pan doesn't bubble and boil over, so it absorbs a lot of the heat, the wooden spoon. So I'm going to leave the wooden spoon there, and I'm going to leave the beans to simmer for a good while, I'd say, until they get really soft, even mushy, I would say. I don't mind them like that, but if you prefer them a bit harder, then obviously don't boil them for as long. I'll probably leave these here for about half an hour now. While the beans are simmering away on the hob, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my vegetables into my slow cooker pot. So on here I have 1 leek that I've just simply sliced, so I'm just going to put that in, and then I have 1 carrot that I have sliced and diced. I've done mine into very small pieces, but you can have it as chunky or as small as you like, it doesn't matter. The reason I'm doing it in small pieces is because my son's a bit of a vegetable phobe, so he has a bit of fear of vegetables, so I always chop it up small pieces so he doesn't realise he's eating it. And then I've done the same with 1 red pepper, so I've sliced the top and I've removed the core and the stalk, and then again I've just sliced it into little pieces. And then I also have a butternut squash that I have peeled and sliced. I use the top of a butternut squash, and I often find that the top is just enough for a meal. And then I also have some potatoes here. I've got about 800 grams of potatoes, and I think I used about 200 grams of butternut squash for this meal as well. And I've got, as I said, I've got some potatoes, and I've chopped those up quite small as well. The last time I made this recipe, I did make it quite chunky. I quite enjoyed it, but I think my husband and son will probably like it in smaller bits. And then I've also got 2 cloves of garlic that I've just simply peeled and sliced. And I'm going to put all of these vegetables into my slow cooker pot now. And this is one of the best meals because you don't need to cook anything else off. And then to that, I'm going to add in some tomatoes. So I've got 1 tin of tomatoes here that I'm just simply going to add to the pot. And I've also got about 250 ml of bone broth as well. If you are vegan or vegetarian, then obviously you can use vegetable stock for this recipe. But I like to add a little bit of meat to our meals. And then I'm also going to add in half a teaspoon of dried mixed herbs to the pot. And then I've got some smoked paprika here as well. Smoked paprika gives it a lovely flavour, I have to say. So I'm just going to add this in. And then I'm also going to add some ground cinnamon to that as well. And the ground cinnamon just adds a little bit of sweetness, makes it quite nice. And then I've also got some ground ginger here as well, so I'm going to add about a teaspoon of ground ginger. Not too much ground ginger, but if you do like chilli spicier, then please add a little bit more. It's just my son isn't a great spice fan either, so I only add a little bit, but if you want to add more then you can. And then I've got a mild chilli powder here again. Again, the same excuse, my son isn't a big spice fan. We're trying to get him used to it, so he is getting used to it, but that's why I use mild chilli powder, but you could use medium or hot if you wanted to. And I've just got to run and get a spoon as well, so I won't be a moment. So I've grabbed my spoon, but I've forgotten to add the green beans in, so I'm just going to add probably a couple of handfuls of green beans to this as well. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stir all of these ingredients together until everything is well mixed in and all of the ingredients are covered in the spices as well. I think before I do that though, I shall add a little bit of salt. So I'm going to add a pinch of salt and I'm just going to sprinkle that over. And I'm going to add a little bit of pepper as well. Salt and pepper to your taste, or if you don't like them then you don't have to add them either. So I'm just going to add those in as well. And I am going to, as I said, mix everything together. And then once everything is well mixed in, like so, I think that's good enough. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the lid on, remove the spoon, Alexis, and I'm going to switch this on to low for about 6 hours now. The chilli has been cooking away for about half an hour or so, and you shouldn't really lift the lid, but I wanted to lift the lid to add the beans in. If you want to, you could cook these off at the end and add them in then, but I thought I'd just do it now just to get it out of the way, basically. So I'm just going to give this a quick stir around like so, and then I'm just going to pop the lid back on and let that cook away now. It has been 6 hours and the chilli has finished cooking. I've switched everything off, so I'm just going to take the lid off. Oh, smells so good. And I'm just going to serve myself some. And then I thought I might just give it a little try. So I'm going to get some potato and some beans and some veg as well. And I'm just going to give this a try. It's probably going to be really hot right now, but I thought I'd give it a go. Oh no. That tastes so good. It's a bit too warm though. Just had a little taste. It was quite nice. But yes, that's how dinner done. And I'm going to serve myself some of this and go and eat it. That's how you make my 3 favourite vegan chilies, and those recipes I will link in the description box below for you. I don't know about you, but I'm starting to feel really hungry watching all this food go by. So I'm off to make a chili now. So for now, that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to give me a big thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and please feel free to leave any comments below. And please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. See you all soon. Bye.